Welcome to Rocket Sports Cards, episode 2 of Out of Bounds. It's our brand new vodcast slash podcast slash sports talk show. I'm going to be joined here shortly by Brandon. Brand new show tonight with 5 brand new topics. I think you're really going to like this show tonight. We want you guys commenting along. This is a very interactive show. We will respond to as many comments as we can. We will get to the topics in just a moment, but I do want to point out that this is probably for mature audiences. We don't go off the rails too often, but there's a good chance that it might. It is for debate. It is opinionated. We do like you guys interacting as well. I just want to say hello to Cindy, to Al, and to Floyd. Everybody's on here. Really good to see everybody. Rockets Rockers. He always calls us Rockets Rockers. Yeah. So we're going to touch on 5 topics tonight. We gave you a sneak preview last week of one of the topics, which is being the average price of going to a sporting event now. Has it priced out much of the community, much of its sports base? So we're going to touch on that a little bit. We've got some politics in sports. We've also got
Hazing.
We've got the hazing scandal going on right now. And then we've got how much. You want to put the topics up?
And how many, yeah.
We'll bring Brandon in right now. We've got the topics. We've got, more specifically, Logan Couture with the politics in sports. We've got the hazing in sports incident that's going on. Sorry, it was how many and how much for the 5 topics tonight. How many? That's going to touch on how would legends perform today, like how many goals or how many home runs would they hit against today's competition. And how much is based on how much would they make if they were playing in today's game. We've got some examples of what they made when they did play and what that would transfer over to today in today's dollars. So if you guys have any questions about the first 5 topics or the only 5 topics this week, you can definitely do so. I'll let Brandon say hello.
Hi guys, it's good to see you. Looking forward to talking with you. We do have some news. We've had some really good luck with our restream, and hopefully the chat will stay up, because the chat has been up for the last 2 or 3 shows where we've had no hiccups with it. So we think we've got that worked out. We definitely want you guys tuning in. We definitely want you guys being part of the show and commenting as we go along. So it's not just Mike and I talking like last week.
So the way the format works, for the first 5 minutes, we will go live in about 2, well, we are live right now, but we will go live with the first topic in 2 minutes. We have a 5-minute intro. We have 5 10-minute misconducts. They're the 5 topics you see in front of you. And then we have a 5-minute close, a Q&A period. But don't be afraid to ask questions throughout the whole show. We will get to you. It is an interactive show, and we want everybody to take part. Throw your opinion out there. Be respectful. We try to be respectful to everybody. It's just a sports talk show, maybe something that the main networks and whatnot might not want to say to you. We're going to cover some topics that might not be on the top of their list due to, PC culture maybe.
Sure.
But we're going to get started. So we've got...
Well, hold on. Before we do that, we have to talk. You promised people a Boombox Bakery update on the cupcakes. You said you were going to start today's show with how it was when you went and got them.
I want to send a huge shout out to Alex and Dan. I did Friday night. I did travel down to London to get the Boombox cupcakes. I had a chance to. They gave me a tour of the venue. Really nice place inside, an industrial look. They're not currently open right now due to COVID, but when they do open, we're in talks right now, possibly shooting Out of Bounds maybe once they're live on location, once they're open to the public. I think that'd be a lot of fun for us. But just an update, the Passion Flakies, I did get a Passion Flaky, and it was literally the greatest thing I've ever put in my mouth. So Cindy is eating a peanut butter cupcake right now, and it's so good, she says. For those of you out there, Quinn did get a dozen cupcakes. He won them.
Yes.
On singles night.
Yeah.
So Quinn did get a chance to have the cupcakes, and literally within 15 minutes, he sent me a private message saying, "Oh my God, man, this is ridiculous." So if you haven't had a chance to try a Boombox cupcake, we definitely encourage you to do so. Hopefully Alex and Dan are online tonight, and hopefully they join in the conversation. All right, so 8:05.
With
that, we can start. So the first topic, 10 minutes on the board, the cost of going to a sporting event. This is something that really, really bothers me. I took the time today to find out. I took NHL teams because the majority of our audience, being in Canada here, would be NHL fans. Everybody goes to NHL games if they can afford it, which by the looks of this list might not be the way it is anymore. I finished last week's show by saying you shouldn't have to have a sporting event on your bucket list. It should be something that's accessible and affordable for everybody, especially since being a Canadian thing, being Canada's game more or less, and the taxes that get put into minor hockey, put into Hockey Canada, we should be able to afford to go to a game because literally we've been paying for it our whole lives. But it is a business, and I understand that, but they are really pricing out the average person. And we've got some examples of that. Brandon has some as well.
Sure. It's actually kind of weird because a lot of the new arenas are paid for with taxpayer money, and there's not a lot of kickback that you get from that taxpayer dollar going to those new venues. So, like, if you look at the new arenas that have been made, Little Caesars Arena, for instance, just across the border from us, they took a huge amount of money from the taxpayers in order to get that out. But anyway, so we'll talk.
I do want to touch on that before
Sure.
we get off that. That was one of my beefs with Mike Ilitch before he passed away, and that's why I threw that topic out there. There is an HBO documentary, a short documentary on the fact that Mike Ilitch took, I think, $500 million from a city that was already bankrupt.
Yeah.
With the intent of promising them X amount of jobs. Where the Little Caesars Arena was built, they basically gave him like a 2-city block.
Yeah.
Everything.
They did, yeah.
So they knocked down all the housing there, which was which was in disarray.
It was abandoned stuff.
It was abandoned stuff, so I get that. But the idea was that he would build restaurants, bars, a shopping mall there. Because for those of you that have been downtown Detroit, you literally have to drive 15-20 minutes to get to any type of shopping. So for people living in the inner city, they have nowhere to go to get groceries. They have nowhere to go to get clothing. Well, there are boutiques down there, but it's more for the upper end.
Yeah, it's higher end. Yeah.
So what Detroit might need is a Walmart downtown. That would be great for them. You know, they can get cheaper groceries, or a Kroger, like just different places that he was supposed to promise the city, and instead of doing that, he built parking for his arena.
Yeah.
So he gave nothing back.
So we only got 7 minutes left because we got to keep on time here. So when we look at the average attendance for sporting events, attendance is down across the board for all the big four sports. So the NFL has been down since 2016. MLB is at the lowest it's been since 2012, but payroll has been going up. If you look at the NHL is probably the closest it's been, but it's probably down since 2016 as well. So you're seeing less people going to the games as a result of, it could be season tickets, as a result of it could be businesses buying into them so they can so they can wine and dine some of their clients, for instance. But I find that it's the secondary market. I think the secondary market is killing sports for the average person, because you have people who are buying season tickets and then they're jacking the price up, and it's a good thing for the organizations. I think revenue increases from secondary markets 7% on average for some of these venues, because you're getting new people in who want to spend the money on food, who want to spend the money on souvenirs and merchandise and all of those things. When I was looking at some of these costs, and you were talking about NHL, the most expensive venue in the NHL in 2019, and this includes parking, beer, food, and the ticket price, was Vegas. $600 is what the average ticket night would be per person. It's outrageous. I can't imagine. But you can see why now the NHL would be so apt to get into Seattle, because of the expansion stuff that's happening right now, right? They're seeing dollar signs.
So Floyd Graham brings up a great point about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we got 5 minutes left here, so I'm going to go over some numbers with you. I spent the better part of the day today going over some numbers. It's actually unbelievable that they don't want you to know what the average cost of a ticket is. The NHL seems to keep this kind of information, tucked under things. I found from vividseats.com prices in USD. The best I could do was 2017. They do not want you to know how much you're spending on these games. They just want it to be an impulse buy. So back in 2017, the Chicago Blackhawks were the most expensive ticket at $283. The Anaheim Ducks were $60 for the average seat. So I broke it down. What a family of four would cost to go to a Toronto Maple Leafs game, and to show that I'm not biased, a Montreal Canadiens game because I'm a Montreal fan. So we broke it down at $610 USD. At 30 cents on the dollar, I use that as a loose figure. $793, which is $198.25 Canadian per ticket to see the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, when's the last time that you were able to get a ticket direct off the website? So let's put this into effect. StubHub average markup, if you're buying them on the secondary market, is 30 to 50%. So let's go with 40%.
Yeah.
So if you're buying your tickets on StubHub, that $198.25 ticket just got marked up to $277.55 per ticket. That's the only way you're going to get them unless you know somebody. And that comes out to $1,110.20 just for your tickets. To go a little bit further.
What seat is that, by the way?
That's an average seat.
So that's
the average price for the arena. It's probably middle.
Average price. Okay.
Okay.
So it's not a premium seat, not a.
This seemed a little bit low to me. I got to go over this quick. So, food. I found a website that had North American travel. So a budget dinner for 4 people in downtown Toronto, which I find a little bit low, was $63.92 with no drinks. Parking on average in downtown Toronto is $22.50. Gas is $70 to $100. I'm using our location, but probably in that range for anybody within a 2 to 3 hour span.
Sure.
A hotel, which is optional. The average hotel in Toronto is $301.67 for a 4-star. That's usually where people. That's not a 5-star. That's a 4-star hotel. At the game, 2 beers, $28. So say you have 4 beers, 2 beers per parent, $56. 2 pops, $10.50 for the kids. 4 hot dogs, $28, $7 a hot dog. 2 popcorn, $16. At the game, you will spend, on average, probably $110.50 without any souvenirs. I got to speed this up. So I broke it down. Without the stayover, if you didn't get a hotel, the average price to go to a Toronto Maple Leafs game would be $1,281.62. The average price if you want to stay at a hotel for the night is $1,583.29. In comparison, the Montreal Canadiens were more expensive, $310.31 per ticket for a total of $1,241.24. Obviously, a little bit different going to Montreal, especially from this area. You're going to have to stay overnight for sure. Your gas is going to double. So I had it broke down. I'll go over it. Dinner. You need lunch $37.70 with no drinks. Dinner $59.32 in downtown Montreal, which seems really low. It did say on the low end, like the budget end. 2 popcorns roughly the same, $16. 2 sodas, $11.50. A little bit more in Montreal. The hotel on average is $221.29 for a 4-star. On the way home, you're going to have breakfast, $23.81. Lunch, $37.70. Dinner, $59.32. Again, I just used that as an average. Parking for 2 days, $45. Gas, $150 to $200 for the entire trip. Coming out to a whopping $2,006.88. Now, I got a minute. This is a speed round. What can you do for less than a ticket to a Toronto Maple Leafs game? You can get a Disney 2-park 2-day pass for $175.50 Canadian. 2 parks, 2 days, both parks. Universal Studios 2-day park pass, also 2 different parks, 2 days, $191.08, and they're throwing in a 3rd day for free with a promotion. That won't always be happening, but you could literally get all 3 parks in with the Islands of Adventure.
Yeah.
The average concert in the United States, not that this is just a sporting event problem. The average concert in the United States, the average concert anywhere, basically, $94.83. For 2 people who go to an average concert, $189.66. It's up 55% in the last 10 years. They're pricing us out of things. I got 13 seconds. My last 4 concerts I went to, value, Dave Matthews, $45. The Abbott Brothers, $28. Counting Crows, $40. Langhorne Slim, you don't know who he is, but he's good, $22 for a total of $135. 4 concerts, for less than it costs for one ticket to the Toronto Maple Leafs. About 2/3 the price. 4 high-end acts. So going to a concert is definitely money better spent than sporting events for sure. Tell us what you guys think.
Another topic for another time would be: does it still have the social status that it once did?
The water cooler talk.
Yeah.
So a lot of people go to sporting events just so they can tell people they went to sporting events. That's why people go on vacation.
Yeah.
It's A, to relax, and B, to tell people you went on vacation.
All right, next topic. Logan Couture and politics and sports.
So Logan Couture sent out a tweet, I believe middle of the week last week, saying that he was in Toronto at a nightclub and he was attacked. He was
sucker punched.
He was sucker punched. He was attacked by somebody from behind, sucker punched, because he was expressing his how do we say this in the right way? He believes in what Trump is doing because he's pro-police. His dad is a retired police officer, and he was pro-Trump, speaking loudly, like not arguing with people, but just letting his opinion be known.
Yeah, his political opinions, he was making them very vocal, yes.
So first I want to say we do not condone violence against anybody, whether it be political party, race, or anything. Violence is a no-no for us. We just want to put that out there. What we're getting at, though, is the fact that 2 days later or a day later, Logan Couture retracted his statement and came out and apologized for supporting Donald Trump.
Yeah, I actually have the quote. I'm going to read it to you. So it says, "I have been debating whether or not to speak further on this matter. However, because of much of what I have tweeted earlier today has been taken out of context, I want to elaborate. Bringing politics to my platform is wrong." And I think that's where I'm going to go with the topic in just a second. While I did not do a good job of communicating my thoughts earlier today, I do believe that everyone is entitled to their own voice and opinions. But regardless of what anyone believes, and to be clear, I do not believe in supporting Donald Trump. Responding with violence isn't the answer and doesn't solve anything. I regret the decision to make this incident public. I apologize to the Sharks as well as my family for having to deal with this. I hold myself to a high standard and apologize for any of the comments that were poorly worded and do not reflect my true feelings or beliefs. I appreciate those who have reached out to me with their concern.
Okay, so he has to come out and backtrack.
Yes.
So my issue with this is the fact that a mob mentality forced him to change his opinion that he truly believes in. Because you don't go out to a bar spouting off unless you actually believe what you're saying to be true.
Well, we don't know if he had been drinking. We don't know the context within how did that conversation start.
But what concerns me, whether you support anybody, and we don't support, we're not going to say who we support or why we support them on this show.
Sure.
It's something that we don't want to put into sports, obviously. We're here to have fun. But the thing that scares me is that you cannot voice your opinion anymore without a mob attacking you. And violently.
Sometimes violently, for sure. And I think that a lot of that has to do with social media. I think that social media has really given people an opportunity to voice opinion and for them to become
braver than usual?
Yeah, so like I always say to my students in my class is that more often than not, people are Clark Kent in public, but they are often Superman behind the keyboard. And it's because there is a level of anonymity between me being able to type something versus me being able to actually go and physically say something in public to somebody, because then you can see what the immediate reaction is. And I think that the social media aspect really plays into every time a anybody, a celebrity, they open their mouths, they're always putting their foot in it. And that's not just Logan Couture, it's the Kardashians, it's a number of people who want to be influencers. And I don't understand the wanting to go to social media immediately when something happens, whether or not you're just drumming it up for support, or whether or not you want people on your side, or whether or not you're just doing it because any PR is good PR. I really have no idea. It just boggles my mind that the immediate reaction is to run to social media. It's like, for instance, a car accident and people pull out their cell phones and that's the first thing they want to do is tape it and they want to go live and say, look, I'm live in whatever at X car accident, not taking into account what's happening around them.
So I'm going to expand on the whole social media thing and why it happens. People are so desperate nowadays to be a part of something.
I agree.
Whether it be good or bad. They just want to be part of something.
Sure.
And that's where the mob mentality comes in. Yeah, liquid courage when you're drinking, I understand that. But it's not the fact that he was drinking and talk. Just get away from what he was talking about. It's the fact that he had to change his opinion due to social media backlash. That's what really scares me in society. I just, it's one of those things like he said it, you own it, right? He had good reason for saying it because he was pro-police. I get that. That's obviously that's what he believes in. People can believe whatever they want, but
he has a vested interest.
Yeah, he's vested interest. His dad's a retired cop. He put it in context. That's why he was
Republican.
Yes, pro-Republican, and he gets punched in the back of the head. So, violence is never the answer. So this is what I'm getting at. First he gets attacked, and then he gets attacked on social media for having an opinion that doesn't look good for anybody.
True, but do you believe that it's the pressure from the public, or do you believe that it was team pressure like Al is saying? Because Logan Couture is the captain of your franchise.
Regardless who it's from.
But the thing is, though, is that he's allowed to have his opinion, but I think we're in a society where you're not supposed to vocalize your opinion. Because
so I like that you said that you're allowed to have your opinion as long as you don't say anything.
Your job is to play hockey. Your job is not to try to influence
No, he's a
people.
human being.
Understandable. But your job is to play hockey, and it's not to try to influence people in any way, shape, or form. And I don't believe that any franchise wants to align themselves
either way.
Exactly.
That's right.
I think that
because
they need to stay neutral.
That's something you guys need to know. If I'm going to say anything on it, is that they don't want their fan base split.
Absolutely.
They want their fan base as a whole, so that's why you never get any type of political statements from teams.
Well, we just talked about attendance going down. Now, if you've divided your fan base, now all of a sudden your attendance is going to drop even more because people are potentially the backlash on your team could be big.
I just think
a boycott.
I just think the road that we're going down when people can't voice their opinion, whether you deem it right or wrong, with a mob attacking you is part of the problem.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that everybody feels like they need to voice their opinion.
Yes, they want to be part of something.
They need to voice their opinion regardless of what it is, and a lot of these are snap decisions. Like the guy who hit him, for instance, was probably not thinking. Probably said, you know what, there's Logan Couture, and it might not have had to do with anything with what he was saying. It might have just said, you know what, there's Logan Couture, watch this, guys.
We can
debate the entire thing.
We can debate it forever.
Sure.
What did you want to get to about politics and sports?
I believe that there is a place for politics and sports, particularly with what's happening with the Black Lives Matter, because that is something that is creating a social movement, and the way that Logan Couture went about his stuff is a little bit different politically than what the Black Lives Matter movement is actually doing. I don't necessarily support what Logan Couture did, jumping online and saying, you know, I got punched because I supported the Republican Party or because I supported Donald Trump or whatever. I don't think that I don't condone the violence in any way, shape, or form, but I can see. I was listening to ESPN, I think it was, and they were talking about how these movements, because they can reach such a broad audience, will incite some type of change. Even Roger Goodell saying, you know what, we should have talked to Cap years ago. That is showing that the needle is finally moving, and I think that the players who are involved in bettering society have a right to voice their opinion that way. The way that Logan Couture did it, where he's not really helping society in any way, shape, or form, probably should have chosen a different venue in order to
Okay, my rebuttal on this, and it's not my personal opinion,
sure,
but it's what I'm reading about politics and sports. A lot of people turn to sports to get away from their everyday life, to get away from the noise, to get away from the politics. And now that politics has invaded its way, well, not invaded its way, it's poor wording, but has really been magnifying due to the athletes talking about it.
Sure.
A lot of people are turning off now. So a lot of people that wanted to just put the game on, have a couple beers, enjoy it, they don't want to see the political side of things because they see it every day in their life. They see it every time they turn the TV on. And sports used to be a release from stuff like that. So I think they run the, and it's not because people are racist. I'm putting this out there. It's not because the people are racist. It's not because of their political beliefs. It's just because they use sports as a release. You know what I mean? Like, they play sports for a release. They watch it as a release. It's something to get their mind off the everyday.
It's like going to a show.
It's like, yes, it is. It's entertainment, and they don't want it. It's escapism. Okay, that's the perfect word for it. Escapism. I think they have to. I agree that there's a place for it, but let's be honest. Like, they could lose viewership over it.
Oh, I agree. All right, next topic: hazing.
Hazing in sports. I'm going to let Brandon kick off this one.
So, hazing in sports, when Mike and I were talking about this, he's got a story that he's going to tell you. I want to look at the culture of what hazing is, because I was looking and doing some research where I was looking at college athletes getting hazed, and the reports out of college by a number of studies show that a high percentage of college athletes are finding some type of hazing that's happening, and kids are killing themselves as a result of this. And some of the stuff, like, we're not even going to tell you some of the nasty stuff that some of these kids go through. But it goes all the way back even to high school, and it's very much like, in my opinion, what the military does, from the standpoint of what they want to do is they want to break you down when they bring in all these new players, and they want you to go through something together as a team. So it's not just an individual being picked on or whatever. They're trying to haze the new group of players coming in so that they can have a bond. I don't necessarily agree with it, because of some of the stuff that I've read and some of the stuff that I've researched when I've looked at this is pretty disgusting. But it's a culture that's gone back for years and years and years, and we're at a point where coaches, and unless it's being talked about in the media, people are turning a blind eye to it. And until we actually are able to get into moving away from humiliation and moving towards more team-building exercises, it's going to continue to be a problem in sports.
Okay, so we do have a question on the board right now.
Sure.
Can athletes really affect change?
I agree. I believe so.
Al, we're talking about it. So that should give you your answer. If the conversation, if we get conversation out of it, then change may affect it. That's how change happens, is by conversation, in my opinion. People need to talk. So I do believe that athletes or people in the spotlight, bands have done it for years. I don't want to spend, we're on another subject right now, but bands have done it for years to use their influence to try and end poverty, to do something socially that benefits everybody. So whether or not there's ulterior motives there because it makes them look good, I'm not saying that with this, but it is what it is. So actually, Floyd just put up the Sarnia. That's the article that we are referring to, actually the one that I'm referring to. Allegedly, we have to put that out there for legal reasons. Daniel Carcillo came out and said that what he went through as a part of the Sarnia sting, allegedly, was just unbelievable. I just want to say this, that playing sports my entire life, I never really felt comfortable with changing in the dressing room with coaches around, showering in the dressing room. For every time I played ball, I would show up at the ballpark in my uniform, and I would leave in my uniform. It was one of those things that I just didn't feel comfortable. And not to say that there were bad people around that wanted to do things to you or anything like that, but why even risk it?
I have a different experience because I played hockey. I've changed. That never crossed my mind. Never crossed my mind once. Even when I was playing like high school hockey and we would play as a group of teachers and students, everyone got into the change room together. It was never anything that anyone ever talked about that we even remotely felt uncomfortable with.
So if you're watching the show, the mainstream media did pick up this story, but they didn't run with it. It was kind of like, can we believe what Dan said? Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where let's just leave this one. That's why we have our sports talk show called Out of Bounds. We are going to talk about the stuff that major networks might kind of brush under the rug. So can a broomstick really promote unity? Please search out the article and read what happened. It will, if you guys have young children and you aspire for them to be an NHL superstar, if this stuff doesn't stop, you might change your tune a bit, whether you're going to allow your child to play into minor sports, because I can tell you right now that my son probably will not play sports because of this. I don't see a team building experience where people are being sexually abused or being humiliated in front of each other. If you really read the article, and if even a tenth of what happened in that article was true, hockey especially needs to change. If it's happening in one dressing room, it's probably happening in a lot of them. I know that's a blanket statement, but we do have somewhat of insider information too. I was made aware of a situation when I was younger of a junior C team in our area that no longer is able to compete. They actually shut the team down because of a hazing incident. It's one of those things where I have firsthand knowledge of it, and it was unbelievable to hear what actually happened. When you have a player coming back to his billets, for those of you that don't know what a billet is, it's where the players stay when they're out of town. It's like their guardian, and saying, I'm done, I want to go home.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here anymore. And then word comes out that they were sexually abused or humiliated sexually. This is happening in our own backyard. Maybe that's why we hear about it, but I guarantee you that it's probably happening in other places as well. Stories broke quite a while ago about Sheldon Keefe and Theo Fleury.
Theo Fleury, yes.
That was one of the first times that anybody really blew the whistle on it with the sexual abuse. I'm just trying to catch up on comments here. So Sarnia hated Dan Fritchie because he wanted to be traded, but now if you read the article that came out, they were the two players, Dan Fritchie and Carcillo, that came out against what happened. Again, this is alleged. It is going through the court systems, but nobody wants to talk about this. But when there's smoke, there's fire. That's what I always heard. That's what I've always understood. And it's good to open up a dialect. Maybe because maybe with Dan and the two Dans actually saying something, more people will come forward, and we can kind of get to the bottom of this, because maybe it's something that needs to be looked into by either Hockey Canada or the NHL itself. Obviously the OHL, because Sarnia being an OHL team, we can't have this happening in minor hockey. And like I said, I think in the next three or 4 years, people are going to get more comfortable with it. You're going to hear more stories about it, because hazing has been around forever. Used to be grade 9 kids got stuffed in lockers.
Yeah, Niners. Yeah,
the Niners, whatever. That's more like a bullying thing. They're not being sexually abused.
But it's the culture.
It's still bad, though.
That's the problem, is that it's created a culture. And there's a saying out there that I'm sure we've heard. It's boys will be boys. And I don't prescribe to that at all, because all you're doing when you say boys will be boys is you're allowing them to have an excuse.
That's right.
And that is not okay. And it seems like as we have progressed as a progressive society, things have gotten much worse. Like, pushing someone in a locker is a lot different than what Carcillo went through.
Yes.
And it just seems it's like, how do we up the ante? How do we up the ante? How do we up the ante?
Even going back to high, sorry to cut you off, Brandon,
No,
but even going back to high school, because we're talking about stuff in grade 9 kids in lockers, being a larger person my whole life, I always stood up for anybody that needed it. I'm not a hero by any means, but I wouldn't put up with that shit. I would not. I didn't pick on anybody. I always defended people. If I ever seen anything like that going down, I put a stop to it. They asked me to play football numerous times. Because of stuff like this, it was always no. And to be honest with you, the reason I didn't play high school football, it was just a reason to have drinking parties. So from what I understand, if you were on the high school football team, you went out every weekend and just got hammered. You're 15, 16 years old. Like, really? Is that what you really want to do? There were instances of seniors making the junior team drink so much alcohol that they had to have their stomach pumped.
Yeah.
So it's been
that's a learned behavior, though.
I understand it is.
That's something's like, oh, well, we went through it, so therefore you got to go through it. And it's almost as if, like, veteran players say, you know what, you're not really worthy of wearing the jersey, or you're not really worthy of being on this team until you actually go through and earn it. And you're just not getting it based on talent alone.
No. So whatever happened to the new guy carries the bags?
Yeah.
You know, there's no problem in that. Like that's kind of earning your stripes type thing. So whatever happened to that?
Or shaving your head. Football players.
Yeah, shave your head. Like, but still, like
your beard
that's altering someone's physical appearance. That's probably not acceptable these days either.
I agree.
But for the most part, hazing in sports, I think we're going to see it blow up in the next few years with stories coming out from all sports leagues. I'm going to tell you that right now. I think it's something that we'll keep an eye on. We'll keep an eye on for articles. Maybe we'll touch back on it. But yeah, that's the one big thing in sports right now that needs to go, in my opinion, especially with all this evidence coming out or allegedly coming out. So we're going to move on.
I'm excited about this one because I don't really know what you were going for with this. So,
two really neat topics. Okay, people always talk about like who's the greatest of all time, and if you took someone from, for instance, what would their stats look like today? So how many is in reference to how many goals would Wayne Gretzky score if he played today?
Okay.
How many home runs would Babe Ruth hit if he played today? Okay. So it's taking an athlete out of their generation and popping them into now. This is part of the interactive part of the show. We want your opinions on it for sure. I'm also going to give you comparables who I think, and you can disagree with me, who I think these players compare to. I've got a baseball, football, hockey. I've actually got two hockey players. I didn't want to bring Michael Jordan into the conversation because he's arguably the greatest of all time in basketball, because then we start an hour-long debate of LeBron Jordan.
Right.
So we'll leave basketball for tonight. In my opinion, they're both the greatest of all time. They're just different generations, guys. Like, we don't need to debate that.
Sure.
So that's fair to say that they're both phenomenal at what they do, and championship-wise, they're both doing everything they need. Then they're filthy rich, so it doesn't matter.
The Gretzky thing's intriguing.
Yes,
let's
okay.
Gretzky.
Well, hold on. I want to go with
right.
I'm going to go with Babe Ruth first. Okay. So Babe Ruth, in comparison, I took a player today that had the. Okay, Floyd. I took a player today that kind of fits the body mold of Babe Ruth, that fits the offensive prowess that Babe Ruth might have had. Nobody could hit like Babe Ruth back in the day. Maybe the positioning. This player plays first base. I think he's a DH now.
Okay.
But I compared Babe Ruth. If he were to play today, I think he would have because of conditioning and all that. Remember that things were different back then.
Yes.
I think he would compare stat-wise to a Miguel Cabrera.
Okay. That's what I was thinking too.
Based on like his physical attributes, based on the way they play the game, the fact that they're not, well, they're power hitters, but they're also just good average, like hitters for average. I thought Babe Ruth would have comparable stats if he started the same day as Miguel Cabrera in the league that he would have. I don't think Babe Ruth would have the same stats against today's pitching.
I would agree with that 100%.
I don't think Babe Ruth would hit as many home runs against today's pitching, because the one knock on Babe Ruth was always his conditioning. So obviously things would have to change for him to put up those kind of numbers. But that's the other thing. Like, it's really hard to do this because if they were playing today, maybe he would spend more time on conditioning. Maybe he would be. But if you plopped him in today's game, like Babe Ruth's attitude, the way he looked, the way he swung a baseball bat, everything, I think he compares to a Miguel Cabrera, a little bit on the lethargic side almost.
Think he would have won a Triple Crown?
No. So I don't think Babe Ruth would win a Triple Crown these days because of the fact that it's so hard to do.
I think the pace of the game has sped up.
The pace of the game in all sports have sped up.
And the way that pitching is now managed in baseball, I think would have really thrown Babe Ruth, from the standpoint of it was not uncommon for a pitcher to pitch an entire game, and they didn't even have things like pitch count.
We missed a couple of topics here. Can we go back up a little bit?
Yeah.
Actually, no. You didn't play football. No, it was my dad. No, I didn't play football. You know that.
What else did we miss?
So Floyd says that the equipment has a lot to do with it. I don't think so.
I think he was talking about the previous one when they were moving the equipment.
The hazing. The equipment's fine, yeah.
So I think in terms of where I was going with this was that Babe Ruth would see a lot more pitchers And that's a lot more tape to study.
That's right. That's actually a good way to put it. Back in the day, we'll call it 4-man rotation, not a 5-man rotation. Guys pitched 40, 50 games a year.
Absolutely.
You would go up against a guy like Fergie Jenkins, not him, but Fergie being Canadian, being from Chatham, I'll use him. Fergie starts 50 games, you know what I mean? Pitches 8 innings every game.
Absolutely.
You see him 4 or 5 times at the plate every game, so you get used to that guy. Now they're bringing guys in for 10, 13 pitches just to face you, and you might not have ever seen this guy before.
And it was a much smaller league back then, and now you've got so much more parity, and it's the sport itself is a lot more globalized, where you've got players from all different backgrounds. Like, I mean, things would look a lot different, and even just the style of pitching itself would be a lot different. Like,
absolutely.
How many breaking ball pitchers do you remember back from when Babe Ruth was in?
So what we're saying is that if you plot Babe Ruth into today's game, he's probably a Hall of Famer still. I don't think he'd be on that legendary status if he started at the same time.
I don't think he would either.
I think he would be maybe an all-star. It's just because of I think his body type doesn't translate well today's game.
But you could say the same with Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron was a small guy.
Yeah.
Like, he was a small guy and hit 755 home runs. He's not cranking 755 against today's pitching.
Well, a lot of guys today are jacking home runs that are a little bit on the small side. But we'll move on. We wanted to get to a football player, so I went with a quarterback. I went with Joe Montana. So if we can compare, absolutely, if you can hit, you can hit. That is true. But with the amount of conditioning needed to play in today's game, maybe he wasn't hitting off pitchers that can really dominate like they did back then, or they didn't dominate like they do now. He's not seeing 105-mile-an-hour fastballs back then.
Right.
He's not seeing breaking balls that start up around your eyes and come down for a strike.
He's not. I don't think he's playing 162 games.
I don't think that's another thing. I don't think he's got the the conditioning to play 162 games.
You need what Kawhi Leonard has, whatever they call that. That's that workload. Whatever they call that.
Okay, so Joe Montana, a smaller quarterback by all means, a legend. I think Joe Montana would still have success in the league because I think I compare him to a Drew Brees. Drew Brees, a not very mobile quarterback, a lot of success with throwing. But I think quarterbacks from then to quarterbacks till now can still have success because of the way the position is. It's more of a thinking man's. Like there is physical attributes there, but I think if you're smart and you're a quarterback, you can get through in any era basically.
I would be curious to know what Joe Montana's release time was, because most of the quarterbacks are releasing at about 2 seconds right now. 2 to 2.5 seconds. I'd be curious to know how long he was able to hold on to a ball.
Well, it depends on how good your offensive line is.
Exactly, and I don't know what the offensive line would look like for him, because even the size of the O-line is a lot bigger. And trying to throw over the offensive line, like Russell Wilson's a short guy, he's like 5'9" or something, right? He's got to get up to throw over.
Yeah, and he scrambles
line.
too.
And he does.
He creates time.
And I don't know if Joe Montana's got the legs to do that.
All right. We got to get to the next one.
All right.
Everybody wants to talk about Wayne Gretzky.
Okay.
So Wayne Gretzky, in my opinion, I could not find a comparable for him, and I'm going to tell you why. So Wayne Gretzky was a time and space guy. Wayne Gretzky was an average skater. People will argue that he had above average skating. I think he was average at best. He had a lot of time and space. Obviously, everybody knows the Gretzky rule, where you don't hit him.
Yeah.
He had all the time in the world on the power play behind the net in his office. The game today would pass him by. You just do not have the time and space to set up anymore. I think Gretzky had the smarts that he'd still be an NHL player. I'm not going to say he's not going to play in the NHL if he came in today.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, due to time and space constraints, I don't think he would put up the stats that he put back then.
I would agree with that.
And it also has to do with the fact that goaltending and defense are so evolved now.
Yes.
The league scoring is down. I don't think he can put up that type of number.
Even the size of the equipment is up. Like, I mean, you're filling the net with big bodies and big equipment, and I agree with you 100%. That where he played, I don't think he's getting through the early 2000s, the late 90s and early 2000s defensively. Someone's going to lay him out. Like, he's going to get crunched by somebody, because I don't believe that they would have the Gretzky rule in there. for him.
Okay, that's up for debate. You guys can tell us what you think about Wayne Gretzky playing in today's era. I don't think he would translate as well.
He'd probably be 100 point. He'd probably be 100 point a season.
I get that because the skill and his vision and all that.
Great hockey IQ, but I don't foresee him putting up the numbers that he did in the era that he did.
30 seconds to go. Yeah. I do want to put out there one player that I think would dominate in any era. Actually, there's two of them. One is Mario Lemieux. Brandon doesn't think he skated well enough, but he was deceptively fast. 2 strides, he's down the ice. I think Mario's body type and his skill level, compare him to like a Draisaitl or a Malkin, the exact same body type, playmaking, scoring ability. In my opinion, Mario Lemieux is obviously in the top 5 of all time in the conversation. I think because you can drop him into this era, I think that puts him, in my opinion, as the greatest of all time. I'm going overtime. Other than Bobby Orr. So the game now is tailored to a guy like Bobby Orr. He dominated in his era, and even more so if you took Bobby Orr and put him in the game today, he would be electric. The game is basically geared around the puck-moving defenseman, the guy that can skate. Offensive-minded defenseman.
Yeah, I agree.
Bobby Orr, Mario Lemieux, 2 guys that transcend generations and can still play anytime, anywhere.
I'll give you a Bobby Orr, but I'm not going to give you Lemieux.
Would you give me Lemieux over Gretzky?
Yes.
And there we go. All right. So moving on, we took an extra minute there, but that's okay. What would they? So the next question is how much? If we plop these guys down in the current market in a non-cap world, how much would they make today with no cap? So if Babe Ruth was putting up the stats in today's game, how much money do you think he would make on a yearly?
That Miguel Cabrera is, if we're comparing him to Miguel Cabrera?
No, if he was a legend.
In a non-cap world. Okay, we're talking per season, or are we talking like...
Let's talk per season. Okay, so I'm going to throw this out there. Babe Ruth's salary from 1931 was $80,000 a year. In today's money, that translates to $1.36 million. That puts him tied with a guy named Donovan Solano and Evan White among current players, according to Sport Track. Babe Ruth would be the 431st ranked payroll in baseball. So obviously that wouldn't happen.
He's got to make more money than that.
He's got to make more money than that. At the time of his death, Babe Ruth had a net worth of $800,000. Okay? If you plot Babe Ruth down in today's game with no salary cap, I think he's a $50 million player if he's producing at the same level.
I don't give him $50 million.
What is the top salary in baseball? $35 million?
I don't give him 50. $50 million?
He's the biggest name to ever play the game.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know that, though, if you just picked and plopped him in.
No, but if he was producing at the same level, and he was that big of an attraction for the New York Yankees, he's got to fall. If the best player in baseball right now, if we could bring Babe Ruth back to life, and it was the Babe Ruth that everybody knows, and you put him on a team right now, that's what I'm getting at. What is he worth?
I can't see.
He's the top paid player.
Even in a non-cap era, I can't see.
He's got to be. He's the biggest star. He's the biggest star in baseball history. You have to. In his prime, Babe Ruth can put up the numbers today. He's making $40 to $50 million.
You know what? I'll
From
go,
the New York Yankees.
High 30s. I'll go mid 30s.
So he would be the highest paid player in baseball.
If he's put. See, it's really tough because you're not comparing an apple to an apple now.
That's
you're
right.
Comparing.
All things being equal, he's in the league, doing what he does best. We know who he is.
Now you've really overpriced everybody, and now nobody in the middle class is going to be able to go and see a baseball game. I can't see him.
It's up for debate. What do you guys think Babe Ruth would make if he performed at the same level? How much money do you think he's worth in a non-cap situation? That's a good...
You'd have to sign him long-term. So I'm going to think contract here.
Now we're talking long-term contract.
You'd have to sign him to a long-term deal.
You guys out there, tell us what you think Babe Ruth is worth.
Where he's going to make his money over time. He's not going to make it year over year. He's not going to sign a 1-year contract in today's market.
Babe Ruth,
no one would sign him.
The biggest name,
a 10-year deal.
Babe Ruth, the biggest name in sports history. Let's face it, not just baseball history. He is a household name. Patrick Mahomes signs for what, $500 million, $500 million? You're telling me he's not worth that?
Different sport, though.
It doesn't matter.
Baseball's dying, and football is
Michael Jordan. I got Michael Jordan on this list. I'm going to tell you something about Michael Jordan. I'll skip ahead. So, according to Forbes magazine, Michael Jordan made $145 million from Nike in 2019, which is more than what he was paid his entire NBA career. He made $93.7 million from the Bulls and the Wizards for his playing career.
For his career, yeah.
So, what I'm telling you right now is that Babe Ruth being the most recognizable name, even like let's say on par with Michael Jordan at least.
Okay.
His net worth is worth $2.2 billion. So you don't want that guy on your team at $450 million. You'd rather have a guy like Patrick Mahomes selling your team. Babe Ruth or Patrick Mahomes, top paid player in sports.
The problem,
currently.
The problem though is that
it's a crazy conversation. I understand that we're having a crazy what if conversation.
The problem though is that baseball would not be able to sustain that. Baseball could not sustain a Babe Ruth making that amount of money.
But what you don't understand is that in a non-cap situation there with profit sharing, that other teams are helping pay his salary.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because when he goes to Detroit, when he goes to Philadelphia, he's selling out stadiums.
He's a draw.
That's right.
That.
So that's what I'm saying. And with television nowadays, if we could watch Babe Ruth go one-on-one with Clayton Kershaw, that wouldn't draw every eye on the planet just once.
But I would have to know what would the rest of the salaries look like. Like if you ended up with Babe Ruth making, let's say, even if I gave you 40, who's the next highest paid player and what's he making?
Should be Mike Trout.
And what's he making?
$35 million.
Now you're really, really overpricing.
But that's what they're making now. I'm just saying Babe Ruth being $47 million. All right, that is that pre-tax or... Anyways, I just want to throw a few things out there. Wayne Gretzky, what would he earn today? In a cap era, would he be the highest paid player in the NHL?
No.
I don't think Wayne Gretzky would put up numbers that he did back then because of obviously we talked about goaltending and being so much different back then.
I'd give him 11.
They used to jump out of the net when he shot at it. So
I'd give him 11. I'd give him 10 to 11 million.
I think he's a 100-point player probably.
He'd be a perennial 100-point player. Absolutely, he would. He wouldn't score a ton of goals. He would be passing that puck off all the time, and that's probably just to avoid from getting hit.
Floyd Graham brings up a good point. A one-dimensional player like Steph Curry, $40.32 million a year. So if the NBA can sustain a contract like that, Michael Jordan is a $50 million guy. Period. In his prime.
Yeah.
Other guys like Kobe Bryant. So Kobe Bryant he made a lot of money, came maybe 10 years too early because if Kobe was able to make LeBron type money or make, Kawhi Leonard type money,
sure.
Just multiply it by 1.5 every 10 years and that's the way that the ball rolls.
I have a rebuttal for Floyd though. The problem is that you're seeing Steph Curry play consistently 40 minutes a game. Right?
Okay.
You're seeing Babe Ruth.
Well, not in the last 2 years, Steph Curry.
No. But you're seeing Babe Ruth bat once every 3 innings, maybe. And then you're seeing him in the outfield.
But I'll tell you something about watching a guy bat. And it goes back to when we were younger. During the home run chase between Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire,
yep.
Fox or whoever you're watching would cut in
yep.
to watch that. So definitely the money was there.
For sure.
And I think if we only had one season where we could reincarnate Babe Ruth and watch every at-bat that he had, you would watch every at-bat that he took. Because you only get to see it once, and that's it.
Sure, okay. So I can get that for the novelty standpoint. What do you think his stats are going to be? We got 2 minutes to talk. What do you think Babe Ruth's stats
I think he sees a fastball. The parks are smaller now. I think he hits 50, 60 home runs. I think he can still do that because, like Pat said here, the ability to hit a baseball is the ability to hit a baseball in any era.
Oh, and he was a phenomenal hitter.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. What do you think he is in terms of batting average for the season?
Over 300. He's just got
10?
No, he's probably mid 300s. He's probably you might be right about the Triple Crown. The only thing I'm worried about is his conditioning, playing against today's athletes. But again, I did read an article about Wayne Gretzky. They're saying Wayne Gretzky would still be a dominant player today because he would still have access to today's training.
Mm-hmm.
right?
And you could say that about Babe Ruth.
That's right. So Babe Ruth might train a little harder, but if we took them out of their element and plopped them in current or in their playing condition, would they be able to produce? And that was the argument we're coming at tonight. Not so much like if they were born the same time, 10 years later, would they be able to perform with the guys today? I don't think Wayne Gretzky can keep up. I don't think he can skate well enough to keep up with today's game, and there's just no time and space anymore.
I think that if we plopped Babe Ruth, pitchers would pitch around Babe Ruth.
Yes, so Big Al says, again, pitchers today are way better than back then, but we've seen this. We had the argument about Barry Bonds about being the best hitter of all time.
Yep.
Barry Bonds, they had to pitch to him eventually. Barry Bonds also set the single-season walk record, so they did try and pitch around him, but there are times when you can't.
For sure, and I understand.
And you throw a fastball down the middle to Barry Bonds, you're not seeing it ever again. It was in McCovey's Cove. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
There are times they will come up. That's why you have protection. So your best hitter on your team's your 3-hitter because you can get on base, and you got protection at the 5-hitter behind you. You have to have protection. That's why they had Murderer's Row with Garrigan. You know what I mean? Like they made it so you had to pitch to one of them, and any of them were going to hurt you.
I don't know. It would be interesting to see how they would manage a game.
Real quick, 10 seconds. Football comparison. Montana's highest base salary, we used Montana because we used them earlier, $4 million. Made it 90, 93, 94. Would translate to $7.89 million today.
Oh, he's making way more than that.
Hold on. Former number 1 overall selection, Baker Mayfield, next year will be worth $8.1 million.
Oh, but Baker Mayfield compared to Joe Montana?
First overall pick.
Taking Montana every day of the.
So I think if Montana produced the stats that he did, like in the 80s or in 90s when he played, I think he is probably in the Drew Brees $25-30 million range.
I would agree with that. I would give.
I think the Drew Brees Joe Montana comparison is perfect almost. They're both similar style of quarterback.
Yeah, not a lot of mobility.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so big finish. There's a few things I want to talk about here. We have a 5-minute finish. I want to send some shout-outs out there. I want to thank everybody. Okay, hold on, got some questions here. With Gretzky, I bet today's training, like you said, his skating would most likely been much better. Yes, you could argue that, but we were trying to say if you plopped him down, current.
Pulled him out of the 80s, dropped him into.
I watched Bill and Ted's new movie last night. If they would have went and got Wayne Gretzky in the phone booth and brought him back and put him on the ice,
could he play?
Could he play? And I'm saying he would have struggled.
Would he use a composite or would he use an aluminum?
They give him a wooden stick. He's got the coho. Yeah. All right, so we got 5 minutes for show-outs. I want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in tonight. It is our second episode. We want to touch on a few things. We did get kicked off YouTube earlier this week. We're not sure why. I had to send an email to YouTube and ask them like what we did to get the suspension. They got back to me and said, in error, it was done. So hopefully we don't have any hiccups like that anymore because we really enjoy producing these shows for everybody.
Absolutely.
So coming up for next week, maybe some things we can touch on. This is the big finish. Just today, breaking news, and you guys might laugh at this, but Brock Lesnar is now a free agent. Will he sign back with WWE or the UFC? You guys might think that's a little bit of a silly question. Like, is he even a real athlete? Yes, he is. He's worth a lot of money. If he goes, my opinion on this is that I said it earlier. Brock Lesnar uses UFC as leverage to get more money out of the WWE because let's be honest, he probably prefers working in WWE because he's not getting hit in the face for real unless it's an accident.
Yeah.
But it's also a lighter work schedule for him, and he can really plan his life around it, and I think he enjoys it, even though he acts like.
It's terrible.
Well, that's why Paul Heyman is his guy. Another thing, we don't want to get into too much wrestling, but Paul Heyman, now the manager for Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns with the heel turn. Roman Reigns won the title last night.
I have no idea.
So Brandon's out of his element here, even though he gets to sit in front of Andre. But
right look where I'm sitting at Andre. Look.
He's got Andre's groin draped over his shoulder.
Camera over a little bit.
Okay, so Brock Lesnar, what do you guys think about that situation? Do you think he'll use UFC as leverage? Do you think he'll go back to UFC? Do you think he's better suited to stay in the WWE and make millions and millions of dollars there? So that was one. I also want to say that breaking news just before we went on the air tonight that Leonard Fournette was waived by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Brandon had some information reading that he's kind of toxic in the room.
Yeah. They were trying to deal him and they couldn't deal him. No one wants him because he's a cancer in a locker room.
He was offered up. The Jacksonville Jaguars said they were calling teams asking for a 5th or 6th round pick, and everybody said no.
Someone is going to get a steal.
So, real quick, where do you think he's going?
Where would I like to see him?
Either way, where do you think he's going?
I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to throw locally. I'm going to say the Detroit Lions.
Okay.
Yeah. Detroit needs a stud running back.
They've had obviously running back issues. Kerryon Johnson's never healthy, it seems.
No.
So maybe that's one of those things where they can bring Fournette in. Due to the fact that they couldn't get any picks for him, yeah. I think the price will be a lot cheaper.
It will be.
Big Al's right on the money. I think Leonard Fournette will go to the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to tell you why. If he can get his attitude adjusted and be a team guy, he's got the most chance for success there. They're not a throwing team; they're a running team.
They're ground and pound.
They're ground and pound. The defense is phenomenal there.
They have a good line. Good O-line.
The other thing is they have the cap room to sign him. They do have extra cap room. Secondly, David Montgomery just went down with an injury. They signed some rookie running back I've never heard of. So there is an opening there. They've got Tariq Cohen. So I think they're going to have sweet and salty kind of thing going on there where Tariq Cohen's out of the backfield to catch passes. Leonard Fournette's your second, third down pound it guy.
He wants to have as many touches as he could possibly
That's right.
get, though, and that's going to be the problem.
So that's one of those things where I think the Chicago Bears, that's the type of guy, if Trubisky can, Big Al's right on it, he said the Bears. The Pats, I don't think anybody wants to go to the Pats these days because I think a lot of people see them as they're going to have to rebuild.
Yeah.
I
don't trust Cam Newton. I'm a Patriots fan. I don't trust Cam Newton at all.
Also, I think Bill Belichick's probably going to be done in the next couple of years. I think he's just going to have enough. But the writing's on the wall. A lot of guys already said for the Pats that they're not coming this year because of COVID. The Pats had, I think, 7 or 8 guys say they weren't going to play.
Yeah.
So the team's already in disarray. I don't think Fournette wants to put himself in that situation. I think the setup is there for him to go to the Bears because they have the best chance to win with an elite running back, and they didn't win when they got rid of Jordan Howard. They went with David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. Jordan Howard, Cohen was a great duo. And I think if you brought in Fournette, they would be playoff team again, like hands down. Like, I just don't see how, if the Bears call, Fournette says no, or Fournette's probably calling them right now and saying,
I don't think if any team calls, he's going to say yes. You got anything else? I'm going to keep us timely. I'm going to give you a minute.
Okay. I just want to throw this out there. A nice little touch to end today's, we're mostly a hockey show, obviously. I just want to send well wishes out to the Belleville family. Jean Belleville would have been 89 years old today. We lost him a few years ago. LaGrosse Bill, number 4 for the Montreal Canadiens. Probably the nicest player in hockey history from what we've heard on all accounts. So I just wanted to say that about Jean Belleville. Would have been 89 years old today. But that's it for tonight's show. We'll wrap things up. I want to say thank you to everybody that tuned in. We got Minnesota winning. Floyd's got Minnesota winning the division. We'll see about that. I think that's probably the best division in football other than the Lions. But you never know. So Stafford's healthy. They're a 500 team, in my opinion. But we'll see. But I do have to wrap this up. I got 10 seconds left, so I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to Out of Bounds. We had a consistent 10, 12 viewers.
Awesome, yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube, which you are because it's a YouTube exclusive, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button to the programming. We'll be back Thursday night with Singles Night. You guys always tune in for Singles Night. And next week on Out of Bounds, we'll have 5 new topics, and we'll enjoy the conversation with everybody that night.
Yes, thank you all for commenting. It's awesome when you guys are actually part of the show. That's exactly what Mike and I want when it comes to this. We want you guys to be able to jump in and have some fun with us.
And let us know what you thought about the topics this week, and maybe some of the topics you'd like to see next week. We're always trying to keep current, but we're also going to talk about issues that maybe mainstream media didn't want to cover, such as hazing, such as the politics.
For sure. Alex, because you missed the show, you're fired.
Yeah. So anyways, we're going to wish everybody a good night, and take care, everybody.